Hey guys, I hope you all are doing well and that you had a wonderful week. My week, as you might be able to tell from when this video is going to be uploaded, has been a little hectic, especially during this weekend, and a fair amount has happened. So I'm just going to go ahead and touch on the most major thing, in my opinion, that happened this week, and that was joining the Waterpolo Club and going to those practices. So I mentioned in a few videos that I was going to join this club, and on Monday I went to the very first practice of this club. And so I go in, I'm all excited, I'm all ready to go, and of course the dreaded words come, go swim a 200. Now to all the non-swim people out there, this is not a very meaningful term, and to all the swim people out there, this is a meaningful term, but it might not carry with it the weight that I want it to. Because you see, me and swimming don't really go hand in hand together. We're very much mortal enemies, which a lot of people think is weird considering I play a sport where a main component is swimming. And first off, let me make a very important distinction. Water polo is swimming with your head above the water. And swimming is typically, especially in freestyle, which is the name we give to the forward crawl, is very much not head above water. It's very much head below water, regulating your breaths. We actually have drills where our coaches will yell at us for breathing. It is that serious. And while I am good at water polo, a stamina-based, long-run, breathing sport, I, for whatever reason, am extremely bad at swimming, especially sprinting, especially going fast. And yeah, so they say those dreaded words, go swim a 200, and I'm like, oh boy, where is the slow lane? And so I go ahead, I join the slow lane, and I get lapped a few times, which is always a great time. We go from the 200 to our main set, which is essentially a lot longer version of swimming, and get into the practice. Once we actually get into the practice, it is all fun and games, quite literally. For me at least, all of the drills, all the passing, all the shooting, all the strategy stuff is really interesting and really fun and really engaging. It's just that nasty swimming part that takes up about half or more of the practice that I absolutely despise. So why, you may be asking right now, did I stay in a sport that I despise half or more of? Well, because I'm a sucker for compliments. Because when I got out of that pool and I needed a ride home, I went ahead and went with one of the returners because they have cars and they also happen to live by where I live, which is nice. So we go ahead, get to talking, and they say to me, you know, you were good, really good out there. And I'm just like, oh yes, I am the best water polo player that ever lived. No, I'm more like, oh yeah, I played for a few years in high school. That's my life. But they kept being like, yeah, you were really good. You probably have a lot of potential for this team. And I'm like, oh, okay. You've said the magic word, that magic potential word. And now I will be here through life and death. No matter what drill you throw at me, I will stay here because I have potential. Now, why is potential such a powerful word? Well, it goes back to those roots and superheroes that I have. You know what every superhero has? Potential. You know what she said that I had? Potential. Therefore, I am a water polo superhero. Boom. Argument done. So anyways, I just went ahead and continued to go to the practices, the next one being on Wednesday. And Wednesdays, if I haven't stressed this enough, are essentially my day in hell. Wednesdays are the day that I go from 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. with very few breaks in that lineup. Not to mention, the two very last classes that I have are a discussion, which is essentially a test. It's about 50 minutes where you're put in a group and assigned a worksheet that is then graded very meticulously and harshly. And then after that wonderful physics discussion, we go ahead and have the physics lab, which is never a walk in the park. It involves a lot of reading, a lot of analyzing, a lot of figuring out what you're even doing in this lab, and it's just a lot of fun. So I go ahead, I get out of this lab. I had a decent lab with my partner. My partner is very nice. He's a very good guy. But it's just exhausting. And so I get out and I'm like, I have water polo practice. And so this lab actually got out early, which is a good thing because my lab is technically supposed to go into practice. But because it got out early today, I didn't have to worry about that. And I was actually on time for practice, which was nice. Except for the fact that the swimming portion is the first half. So going forward, a small part of me, okay, a not so small part of me is wishing that I will get out of that lab as late as possible just to miss the swimming and do the water polo. And I know this is bad because you should work on what you're bad at. That's like #1 rule of sports. But come on. Wouldn't it just be great to just do the part of the sport that you're really good at and you really enjoy? Wouldn't you? Gotta admit, that would be fun. That would be like something you would do for entertainment and enjoyment, which is what a club is supposed to be for, not for pain and suffering. The life of a water polo superhero is so disappointing and difficult. So anyways, I go ahead and I go, and they give us this horrible swim set, this extremely long swim set. It was a swim set that just went on and on and on, and I could go into the details here, but that's probably something for me to tell to my high school coaches and not to the world. But needless to say, it was about 2,000 meters, I think. It was far. The longest race, by the way, is 500 meters, so it's 4 times that. It was a really rough swim set. And we go ahead and we finish that, and we're able to do more passing, shooting, all the good stuff after a good old leg set. And leg sets, a lot of people hate. I'm okay with them. They're not easy for me, but I find them more entertaining than staring at some tile as I go back and forth in a very repetitive motion, you know? So I go ahead, I have my practice, I go home it's very late, and I pretty much collapse. Wednesdays are the days that I pretty much do nothing when I get home, because trying to get yourself motivated to do something after you've not only had an extremely long day of college, but a practice, it's not gonna happen. And videos for those days, in case you guys are wondering how that happens, they're either made kind of midday or I make them not on Wednesdays, because Wednesdays are hectic. And then my last practice that I've done so far was actually this Sunday. And to preface this, people had been saying, like, Sunday is the most fun practice. Sunday is the day that is just the best. And me, not really thinking, I guess, didn't really ask why it's the best practice, which I should have. Because when I get there, I'm all ready to just do a all passing, all drill practice. You know, what would be really fun for me? Something that I would call a really good practice and be that excited about. But what it ends up being is actually the worst day of conditioning of all of them. Just a horrible slog, a set where you have to swim to one side of the pool, get up, do push-ups, swim to the other side of the pool, get out, do squats, swim to the other side of the pool, get out, do flutter kicks. Just this horrible set that you had to just keep going and going and going on no matter how tired you were. And it was rough, but we did it. We got through it. It was great. And once we finally finished all of the swimming that we did for that day, we only had 40 minutes. Only 40 minutes of the fun stuff, and that really bummed me out. And then they used like a good portion for passing, which I do enjoy. It's not ideal, but I do enjoy it. Of course, like any good player, I like shooting the best because, come on, there's no better feeling than getting that ball in the goal, in the net. Whatever sport you play, you know the feeling of scoring is the absolute best feeling that you can have. And so anyways, we got ahead and we managed to get through our very first Sunday practice, the rest of which I am not looking forward to. So moving right along, that was my kind of water polo experience, my first week of water polo, just like I had a video on the first week of school. Some other minor things that happened this week, just to keep you updated. In my anime class, always a fun one to talk about because it's very random and just enjoyable. So in my anime class this week, we got to learn about some ancient scrolls, some stuff from like the 12th century, and then some stuff from like the 15th century, and all this cool stuff. But right in the middle of all that really cool, like really interesting stuff, we learned about like hungry ghosts, which are essentially these spirits of greedy people that have to go around and look for absolutely anything for food. And you can think of the extremes that looking for absolutely anything to eat would go. And I'm just gonna let your mind wander for a second and think about the possibilities of eating absolutely anything that you can get your hands on. And not a very pretty picture, is it? Not a good picture. So these ghosts would commonly be seen, according to my Japanese teacher, who is of course an authority on this. She went to school for this. According to her, hungry ghosts were most commonly seen at public bathrooms, eating exactly what you think they would be eating there. So then we moved on from hungry ghosts in my anime class, which is more Japanese visual culture, I suppose, and random facts that our teacher found that are extremely entertaining. And we went ahead and we progressed to this fun scroll that a prince in the 15th century made in his free time. Something befitting of a regal person to go ahead and spend tons and tons of time creating so that it could be preserved for future centuries to look back on. And he made a scroll about farting battles. Yeah, I don't think that humor has really changed that much over the years, because if a scroll about farting battles was popular in the 15th century, and that kind of humor is still present in our children's films today, humanity really has progressed, haven't we? So it was definitely a very fun time in that lecture. That lecture is always the most enjoyable, and honestly, I should just create a segment just for that lecture and the discussion sections of that class, because it is an absolute delight. All my other classes were pretty normal this week. Nothing really to report there. But the only other thing that I really should report is I got to see my dad this weekend. My dad went ahead and came down to Tucson to go ahead and see a football game with me. And that game was versus none other than Texas Tech. Now you may be asking, why is it important that this game was versus Texas Tech? That seems like such a random fact to bring up and say is the most important. Well, let me tell you. The logo that my high school used for their name and their mascot or whatever, the thing that we emblazoned on our t-shirts was actually the Texas Tech logo. And this included everything from t-shirts to sweatpants to, of course, our swimsuits. And so whenever I go to that water polo practice, guess whose logo I'm wearing? It's not the University of Arizona's logo, it's Texas Tech's logo. And while I will get that fixed at some point, it is pretty ironic that the first team that I got to see play against my home team was a team that I technically have more merchandise for than the home team. And it is a very strange thing to see your high school logo versus your college logo. This is not something you see every day, and it's very disjarring. And to make it even weirder, the last time that Texas Tech played the University of Arizona was 12 years ago. That's a long time. This is a very rare occurrence. And not only is 12 years ago interesting because it is so long and this is such a rare occurrence, but it is interesting because my number in water polo, can you guess what it is? It's number 12. They knew I was coming. They knew my number was 12, and they were like, we gotta make this perfect. We're gonna come on the 12th year, make everything come full circle, have the 12th year be when her high school meets her college, and that's it. We gotta plan this in advance. They've been planning this ever since I chose number 12 in sophomore year. I guarantee it. That's the only reason why this game happened. Absolute only reason. I mean, what else could it be? I don't see a better reason than that. So, yeah. Me and my dad went, we saw that game. My university prevailed. So, sorry guys back home, but I guess our high school just couldn't cut it against the awesome strength of the University of Arizona. It was actually a pretty close game. Lots of touchdowns from either side, good defense, good offense. I'm not the biggest football person, but it was an interesting game to watch, which says a lot. And then that was my whole Saturday with my dad. Just a good time going ahead watching a game. And then on Sunday, I had my water polo practice. And then I got to see my dad also on Sunday, and we got to run some errands, which includes various things. Such as getting some tea and just getting granola bars, that kind of stuff. Pretty basic stuff. And getting a new phone, which is pretty exciting. The other one had decided to really stop working in texting and all of that stuff, which I find pretty important. So now we've got a new one, which is pretty cool. Anyways, that about sums it up for my weekly rant. I hope you guys find some semblance of joy in these. I do try to be entertaining. I know I don't always succeed, but I try desperately. Fun fact, I've been scripting more and more of these videos. My scripts consist of a post-it note with a few words on it, usually under 10. But these videos are completely unscripted. So if I go off on a tangent, or it seems like I have no idea what I'm saying, or anything, that's why. But also, if I make a good joke, it's that much more impressive because I am doing it on the spot, no cutting, no faking it. This is one take, baby, and we are going for it. Alright, so all that being said, I hope that you guys soar high and enjoy the ride of life, and have a great day and a great week. Bye.